Man, last weekend was one of the best football weekends I can remember in a long, long time. The college semifinal football games absolutely delivered. So on today's show, I'm going to share 5 lessons that I learned from all football games over the weekend. Let's jump in.
It's time for the My Retirement Clarity Podcast with Lee Perkins, financial planner and president of J.L. Perkins Wealth Management. Get ready for a good dose of inspiration, simplicity, implementation, and of course, clarity on how to successfully prepare for retirement and grow and preserve your wealth. Here's Ben George with Lee Perkins.
Hey there, thank you so much for tuning in to the My Retirement Clarity Podcast. Wow, it is crazy to think we are now over 90 episodes into the podcast. I think this is actually episode number 92. And our show grows each and every month. We continue to get new listeners, so I really appreciate you tuning in. I'm Lee Perkins. I'm the founder and the owner of J.L. Perkins Wealth Management. We're a small firm right here in Macon, Georgia, and we work generally with people who are over the age of 55 and who are either close to retiring or already retired. And people continue to ask me, Lee, why do you choose to work with this group of folks? And my answer has never changed. I think this is the group of people that we can add the most value to. So if you want to learn a little bit more about our firm, what we do and who we do it for, you can visit us on the web at www.myretirementclarity.com. There's a lot of information there. You can access that for free. And of course, if you want to schedule a conversation with me, just go to www.talkwithlee.com and you can grab a 15-minute spot on my calendar. So today's show was inspired by an email that I sent out to people who are subscribers to our Uncommon Sense newsletter. And in that email, I reflected on 5 lessons that I learned from watching the college football games the last week of bowl season, right before the national championship game, as well as the Monday night football game last Monday, January 2nd. So as you may or may not know, I'm a big fan of football, and like a lot of people, I watched a bunch of it over the holidays. So as I was reflecting on this, I just thought to myself, wow, there's probably 7 or 8 really great life lessons that you could take from these football games. So on today's show, I want to go over 5 of these lessons that I found very interesting, and I think you will too. So the first lesson is pretty simple. You are responsible for you. And so this lesson came from listening to Nick Saban, of course, the head coach of Alabama, bellyache about his team not making the college football playoffs. So even after they won their game against K-State, he doubled down on his opinion that they should have been in the playoffs. Look, I am a big fan of Nick Saban. I think he is the greatest college football coach of all time. But he's wrong here. You can't lose 2 games and expect to go to the playoffs, especially when there's teams that were more deserving. And especially when his 2 losses came against teams that, they've already got 3 or 4 losses themselves. And so, I think had Alabama only had 1 loss, they'd have been in the playoffs. And he wouldn't have to complain about their position of being at home right now. But they didn't win those games. But in the last month, every single time he got in front of a camera or a microphone, he talked about why they should have been in the playoffs. And so this life lesson here, it reminds me a little bit of retirement and, sometimes how retirees act. Every once in a while, I'll talk to people who sort of whine and complain about their lack of savings for retirement. But I think in a vast majority of those situations, that lack of savings, it is a direct result of the actions or the inactions of the person who's complaining about it. So if you don't have enough money for retirement, chances are it's because you didn't save enough while you were working. You likely had other priorities and other concerns, or maybe you just really didn't have the resources. I truly am very sensitive to that fact. Not everybody makes a lot of money. However, we all have a choice of what we spend our money on. So, even if things are tight, you've got to know that at some point your paycheck is going to go away and you got to make plans for that date. Those plans should really include saving money for retirement, putting it away for the future. There's also no reason to be mad or be jealous of people who do wind up with a lot of money. Be happy for them. Your lack of money has nothing to do with how much money somebody else has. So be happy for them. So again, that's the first lesson. Take ownership of your actions and the consequences of those actions. And I would say maybe a bonus lesson in this example would be to not leave your fate in somebody else's hands. And in Nick Saban's case, he feels like the committee failed him. Sorry, Nick, that is not how it works. So anyway, I'm pretty confident Nick Saban is not going to be tuning into the My Retirement Clarity podcast. But if he does, I hope he takes that lesson to heart. So anyway, lesson number 2, never give up no matter what the circumstance is. And I was reminded of this really watching the Georgia-Ohio State game. And I know a lot of you probably watched the game, especially because a lot of our listeners are here in Georgia. And to me, it's one of the best college football games I've ever seen. And I know that's probably because I had a dog in the fight, literally a Georgia Bulldog in the fight. And to me, this game really didn't go as expected. I thought Georgia would win by, 10 points, 2 touchdowns, something like that. But the Ohio State quarterback, C.J. Stroud, man, he absolutely shredded our defense. And we couldn't cover their receivers for most of the game, really the first half and some of the third quarter. So it was an uphill battle for us all night. But somehow in the fourth quarter, Georgia got some momentum. They were able to get a couple of late scores and obviously caught a few lucky breaks, and they won the game. Stetson Bennett, no matter what you think about it, he is a baller. That guy can play. He had a great fourth quarter. I think it was a record fourth quarter performance, and he had more passing yards in that fourth quarter in the fourth quarter of any bowl game, I think, in the history. So, and obviously the lucky break I think we got was the Ohio State kicker shanking the game-winning kick. So Georgia won the game. So here's the life lesson here. Even if things don't go as planned early on, maybe you're in the third or fourth quarter of your life, don't give up. Stay positive, remain focused, and execute your plan. Hopefully you have a plan. Don't let whatever circumstances that you're in right now get you down. Stick to that plan, execute those plans, and eventually, you could catch some breaks. And I think there are a lot of great stories of people who have sort of reinvented themselves later on in life and just, had a great fourth quarter of their life. And I think one of the most common factors in these situations are discipline, their motivation, and of course their willingness not to accept their circumstances when those circumstances aren't very good. So anyway, don't give up. Hey folks, Lee Perkins here. If you've listened to this podcast for any amount of time, you know how much I hate taxes, and I know you probably do too. Our politicians are completely out of control. Their spending is off the chart, and you've got to be prepared for increasing taxes in the future. So we've written a book called Diffuse, 7 Steps to Protecting Your 401k or IRA from the Ticking Tax Time Bomb. You're going to want to grab a copy of this book and learn how you can protect yourself. Then you'll have to decide if you want to take action right now or if you'd rather wait until the IRS changes the rules of the game. Either way, the choice is yours. To get a free copy of the book, just text the word diffuse to 478-475-2050. That's DEFUSE to 478-475-2050. And we'll send you a free copy. Thanks again for listening. Now back to the show. All right, lesson number 3, be gracious in defeat. I know probably a lot of you know the quarterback from Ohio State, C.J. Stroud. He had a really, really good game in that. He, like I said earlier, he dominated the Georgia secondary in the first half and some of the third quarter. And this guy can just flat out play. But what impressed me most was his post-game press conference. And I don't know if you saw it or not, but I think this probably created a whole lot more fans than he had prior to the game. So listen to his quote. He said, "God's plan, it's something that you don't really understand in the moment. It's something that you won't really understand maybe ever. But he thinks greater than us. He knows greater than us. And he does greater than us. That was his plan for that to happen. Wow, that's crazy wisdom, incredible wisdom from such a young guy. The message boards and social media was full of fans sort of belly aching about what happened in the game, the no targeting call, the timeout, the first down. Yeah, there were some controversy. I get that. Some of those went Georgia's way. However, this guy was very, very gracious in defeat. And so to me, the life lesson here is be gracious when you lose and always remember that God is in control, not us. His ways aren't always our ways. And so I'm a big fan of C.J. Stroud, and I think he's going to do well in his next phase of life. All right, lesson number 4, be with others. We had about 20 to 24 folks over to our house on game day to watch the Georgia-Ohio State game and the game before it. The spread of food that we had was absolutely amazing. And watching the game with some of our friends was even better. We even had a couple of Auburn fans over, not because they wanted to be around a bunch of Georgia fans in a year that their team wasn't very good, but because they're good friends of ours. And so to me, the life lesson here is surround yourself with people that you enjoy being with and make it a point to schedule time with others. I think far too often people just sort of isolate themselves from other people and wind up being lonely. And the older you get, the more challenging this can be. So you don't have to wait on a big football game or something like that to invite people over. Just schedule a date, make a dinner and invite some friends over. You can play games or do whatever you want to do. The important thing is to just be around other people. Last month we had in our office what we call Cake Day. And it's nothing but a day where we invite all of our clients to come over to the office and we give them a pound cake. But we set it up like a reception. There were, some good food and drinks and coffee. Of course, the pound cake that we give out is made by one of our clients, Miss Robin. It's unbelievable. I think it's the best pound cake that I've probably ever had. But you know what? It's not about the cake. It is not about the cake. It's about seeing our clients and creating an environment where people can mingle and interact with other people and get to know new folks. That's what it's about. It was a great time this year, and I'm probably going to try to figure out a way to do something similar, just in addition to Cake Day some other time throughout the year. I just think people need to be around other people, and I would encourage you to do that. So sorry to ramble a little bit there, but I do think it's very, very important. All right, lesson number 5, life is precious. All right, obviously by now everybody's heard about the Buffalo Bills defensive back Damar Hamlin. Last Monday night's game, the safety, he's 24 years old, made a normal tackle. There was nothing vicious about the hit that he gave or maybe the force that he took, nothing like that. It was just a normal tackle. But he immediately collapsed once he stood up. And so the seriousness of the situation was evident pretty much immediately. And you could tell by the reaction of the teammates and everybody around, something was different about it this time. So what happened? He went into cardiac arrest. They had to administer CPR on the field right there. And, he was brought back to life by those paramedics. And so it was really a surreal experience. And of course he was taken by ambulance to the hospital. And, really for the first 4 or 5 days, everybody just we were just waiting for more information, just hoping this guy was going to be okay. And over the last few days, he's spoken. He made his first social media post, I think, over the weekend. Asked for people to continue to pray for him. So, I would ask if you're a believer, continue to say a prayer for Damar and his family. But here's the deal: this was not a freak accident or something uncommon. The reason this got a lot of attention is because it happened on live TV. But we all know people who have had the same thing happen, or had other serious health issues happen unexpectedly. Some of these people are younger, some of them are older. But the truth is, we don't know when and we don't know who it's going to happen to next. So the life lesson here is we're definitely not promised tomorrow. So I want to encourage you to live every single day like it's your last day. This game became immediately insignificant once the health of this young man was in serious doubt, and his health became the immediate primary concern. That game didn't matter anymore. This was bigger than the game. And so in my opinion, it is the exact same thing, same way that I see things with money. The stock market performance for the week, or for the month, for the year for that matter, becomes way, way, way less important, way less significant when our health or the health of our loved one becomes an issue. So try to keep it all into perspective. And again, I want to encourage you to live every single day as if it was your last. Make the most of every day you got. Man, I could probably list 15 or 20 more of these, but I think that's enough for now. I hope these life lessons that I learned over the last football weekend will be helpful for you. And so as I record this episode, it's Monday morning, January the 9th, and the national championship game between Georgia and TCU is going to be played tonight. Of course, I'm going to be pulling for Georgia, as I know a lot of our listeners to the podcast will be. There'll be some TCU fans too. I like our chances this time. You know, I'm a big fan of Max Duggan, the TCU quarterback, and that kid can play too. So I know tonight's game is probably going to be really entertaining. I hope Georgia pulls it out, but I know we're probably going to get some more life lessons from this game. So I'll be listening in for those, and I hope you will too. So anyway, I hope you have a great rest of your week and go make the most of every single day. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you next time. Take care. Lee Perkins here, and I want to thank you so much for tuning into the show today. If you like our podcast, we would be honored if you would share the show with others. And one great way to do that is by posting the show to your social media pages or by just telling others about it. Either way, we would really appreciate it. And of course, if you do enjoy the show, we would appreciate it if you would give us a 5-star review. And this certainly helps other people like you find our show. And if you want to learn a little more about our firm and how we help people have the best retirement they can possibly have, go check us out at www.myretirementclarity.com. There are a lot of great resources that you can access directly on the website. And of course, if you want to have a conversation with me, you can visit www.talkwithlee.com, and this will take you directly to my calendar. And there you can schedule a 15-minute phone call so I can learn a little bit more about your situation. Of course, everybody is not a great fit for our firm, but if I think we can add value and put you in a better situation, I'll let you know, and we can certainly talk about the next steps. So thanks again for tuning into the show, and we'll catch you next time.
Investment advisory services are offered by J.L. Perkins Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor and insurance agency. Information is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute tax, legal, or investment advice. Always consult with a qualified tax, legal, or investment professional before taking any action.